What's up, guys? So for today, we have an interview on our YouTube channel. Obviously, you're here, so you know it's on YouTube. But one of our first interviews like this, we haven't had, I guess, a visual interview. So that's what this is. The interviews with Cedric Maxwell, a former NBA player, now broadcaster slash podcaster. He played mainly for the Boston Celtics. And he finished his career with the Rockets. Played for the Clippers for, I think it was a year and a half, but his final year and a half was with the Rockets. But that's besides the point. He was on the Celtics during their Dynasty in the 1980s, was the Finals MVP in the 1980-81 NBA Finals, and two-time champion. So definitely an exciting interview. Guess we'll just hop right into it. I hope you enjoy.
No, it wasn't my dream to be an NBA player. I really didn't have a particular dream. I love sports. I love watching them. There were many times in my backyard that I would do the whole countdown. 3, 2, 1, ball goes to Maxwell, he scores. But we played all the sports. And that was like the furthest thing from my mind. In my little hometown in Kinston, North Carolina, the best thing we got every Sunday was NFL football. And everybody was Redskins fans. Redskins were always the team that was featured. So didn't know that much about, a lot of professional basketball. And so that wasn't really a dream. Matter of fact, I was one of those people, again, I remember being in class one day and the teacher asking me, well, we went down the line, he was asking people what you wanted to be. And I was typically daydreaming in class. So the guy in front of me says he wanted to be a social worker. Then I was the next person. He said, so what do you want to be, Cedric? I said, I want to be where he was going to be. Pay attention enough to be like, this is what I want to be in life. I was blown into the wind. That's essentially what happened. I blew into the wind at the right time. I got cut from the team when I was a junior in high school. I grew 4 inches over the summer, got a full scholarship, played the next year, became a star in the city, then in the state, and then finally ended up at UNCC. So never in my wildest dreams was I ever thinking I was going to be a professional basketball player. Gosh, that is really good. That's a good question that one would be over the other. There's so many highlights in my career that it's hard for me to just pick one. Obviously winning multiple championships. The first time I ever played against Larry Bird. Wow. Have your jersey retired by the Celtics. Man, I cannot pick one. It's like, you pick one, eat one potato chip, one Lay's potato chip, and you go into another one. I just can't eat one. I can't tell you that one is over the other, because everybody says, well, a lot of people get confused. They'll say, well, 1984, you were the Finals MVP.
A lot of people.
No, I wasn't. You had the great seventh game. Well, I did, but I wasn't the Finals MVP. Now, that would have been some unbelievable history if I'd been the Finals MVP twice. So, but to do it one time with those guys on the floor, I keep telling people in that last game, that 1981 championship game, the great Kevin McHale played 12 minutes for the entire game. And the load was on my back to win that championship. So there's just some unbelievable moments that I look back on, and you get caught up in. I think it was what made us great and what made us kind of a dynasty. One, we were standing on the shoulders of giants already, of the Havliceks, of the Cowens and JoJo Whites, and all these guys that you think about, Bill Russell. That already put us in a very unique position. But then it was just a camaraderie that we had among us because we had so many guys who were afterthoughts when it came to being drafted in college. We've always talked about that. Larry Bird wanted to go to Indiana, and he played there for a minute with Bobby Knight and then left there because he just felt it was too big for him, went back to Indiana State. Robert Parrish played at Centenary University, which was unknown. I played at UNC Charlotte, not UNC Chapel Hill. Joe Henderson played for Virginia Commonwealth. So we had all these guys who played on our team essentially didn't go to the big schools. Like the biggest one probably was Kevin McHale going to Minnesota. But the rest of us, Dennis Johnson with the Pepperdine, Nate Archibald, UTEP. So we had a bunch of guys who were kind of afterthoughts. So I think that's what made us have a little bit more chip on our shoulder, considering we play against the Lakers. You think about Magic with Michigan State, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He went to UCLA, James Worthy, Chapel Hill. You just go down the line of the guys who played there and played at those primary schools. A ton of NBA greats played with me. Let me rephrase that question for you. What did I learn? There were a lot of different things I learned. One, probably the worst player to play with in a crazy way would have been Larry Bird, because he was so dedicated to the game, because he was so one-sided about, basketball. That was it for him. He slept, he breathed everything basketball. Because I had other agendas in my life, it didn't rhyme with who he was as a basketball player. And probably the same thing with Jordan. If I played with Jordan, that wouldn't have rhymed well with him because I had other agendas in my life, things that, I enjoyed. I enjoyed jazz. I enjoyed this. That jazz sometimes would relax me to play a game, or I would take me away from the game in a way that I didn't have to think about it. So, there were playing with the great Larry Bird was and sometimes the worst detriment that you could have playing opposite him. Nate Archibald taught me about perseverance, coming back from 2 Achilles injuries to being one of the top players. Robert Parrish was just, he was a giant in so many different ways. Kevin McHale, I will always say one of my best friends. Kevin McHale and I were Heckle and Jekyll. We took the rap for Bill Fitch and loved every minute of it. Dennis Johnson, just one of my best friends. Well, I hate it. In fact, I think that more shots are dedicated towards, just that. It's taken away from some of the gritty toughness of the game. And that, to me, college basketball should not be as physical as NBA basketball. It had to be Boston. It had to be my best learning experience. First, I learned how not to use drugs when I was with the Celtics. During those times of the late 70s, drugs were all over the place. Tom Henderson, I even tell the story today, how I lived in Framingham, Massachusetts, maybe 25 miles outside the city, lived in an apartment complex, didn't know anybody there. There was one other black guy there. So we played the Houston Rockets at night, and that's when teams stayed overnight. And we beat them. And I was home, maybe it's about 1:30 in the morning. Left the game, went home, finally got to sleep. By 1:30, I get a knock on the door. It's like, man, when who's knocking on my door? And went to the door, and I was like, who is it? The guy was like, Tom. I'm like, Tom who? Tom Henderson of the Houston Rockets. I'm like, Houston Rockets? Seriously? I opened the door up. It was him and this other black guy who was out there, one of the few black guys. And he said, you got any baking powder? No, you got any ammonia? I said, No. Mm-mm. There's no ammonia. Said they looked at me and I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're cleaning something. I don't know what they're doing. Then he said, next question, okay, baking powder. Baking powder. It's like, damn, what, they cooking and they cleaning? I mean, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I go back, finally go to sleep, think about it the next morning, tell my teammates, and first thing they say to me is, you idiot. They were smoking crack. I was like, no idea about that story. So if Tom Henderson wants to sue me for libel, I'll go on the stand right now and a lie detector test. I'll take it all day. I'll pass.
So that finishes the interview. Thanks for watching. Thank you to Mr. Maxwell for being so kind to do an interview with us. I'm going to link his Instagram handle below, so if you want to give him a follow, that'd be great. But other than that, that's it.